it's Bianca and welcome to a Yule Protection Jar spell casting video. I have not made a protection jar in quite some time. My original protection jar looks like this. We actually made this together on this channel. Love it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm so obsessed with it that it has cobwebs and little dust particles on it. I actually just keep a little red string bracelet now attached to it. Yeah, if you want to watch that video, I will link it up here. But in this video in specific, we are going to be making a protection jar specific for Yule. Now, in my Practical Witches spellbook, I'm going to be explaining what Yule is. Yule is December 21st, and Yule is the longest night of the year, the winter solstice, which is also when the sun is reborn. Yule sort of symbolizes the start of winter, and that's kind of amazing because it also aligns very closely with Christmas and the holidays. So if you do not feel like making this protection jar for yourself, please look at this as a DIY gift idea because it is so cool and so awesome to give people sentimental gifts. I'm very keen on giving people witchy items, even if they are not witches themselves. I find that most people have a lot of witchcraft and witchery in their homes and they don't even realize it. So let's get right into the ingredients list. A jar or an ornament, because in this video not only are we going to be creating a protection jar, you can also turn this into a protection ornament to give somebody as well, or just to hang on your own tree. You'll be needing cumin, thyme, cinnamon, or in specific if you have a cinnamon stick, you are going to be needing pine. Now, if you can't find pine in the store and you live in a forest or a woodsy area, there's pretty much often pine trees. So this is just in my backyard. I cut a clipping, or you can go to your local tree dealer for Christmas trees and ask them for some clippings. Black salt and a bell or two. Other than that, you might find that you would need some paper, white candles, a marker or a pen, and a lighter. Now that your station is all set up, what you can go ahead and do right now is cleanse your space. Typically, you can do this with an incense, you can do this with a scent, you can do this with a candle. Earlier today, I had a candle burning. This is a cypress and pine candle, which is obviously very fitting for a Yule-styled video. Sometimes I use perfume to cleanse my space. First things first, you're gonna grab your spell jar and open it. Usually in this portion of the video is when you would take your incense stick and put it inside of the spell jar and make sure it's cleansed. In this sense, I'm just gonna take perfume and spritz it right on it. This is like a little witchy kind of hack slash shortcut, but this is just something, again, that I do because incense oftentimes gives me migraines. First things first, these are just some fresh cut pine needles. These are literally from my backyard. I have a bunch of pine needles here. I'm gonna go ahead and measure all of my ingredients with about a half of this spoon, considering this jar is small, but if you have a bigger jar, feel free to just like measure amongst your will. And pine, aka evergreen, symbolizes immortality and eternal life. Now, I feel like I have to go ahead and say here that I did have nutmeg. I bought it the other day and it literally went missing, so I don't really know where it went. So we're gonna opt out of nutmeg, but if you do have nutmeg, you can absolutely put this in the spell protection jar. And nutmeg symbolizes luck, and of course nutmeg is very prominent during this time of year, so you can find it pretty much anywhere. I'm gonna do the same exact measurements for all of these. Now, we use cumin for peace, and we also use cumin because it repels evil. You'll see that cumin is pretty much in a lot of spells, and I oftentimes don't have it, but as you guys just saw, I finally went to the store and bought cumin because every time I do a spell, I'm always like, oh my god, I don't have cumin. Black salt is a protection, just like pink Himalayan salt, but for some reason I felt like using black instead of pink, or even white salt works just fine. Thyme smells absolutely delicious, and it also is a spice that purifies. We use this to purify. We also use this to ward against negativity. We use this for clarity, and thyme kind of is in a lot of spells if you guys have or have not noticed. Next in our jar, we're going to be trying to rake off a piece of the cinnamon. There we go. Because my jar is not big enough. You don't have cinnamon sticks because honestly it is expensive. You can just use ground cinnamon. For this in specific, I find that using the bark works really good and it smells divine. Since my jar is quite tiny and I actually can't fit a note inside of it, usually what I do is write a little protection note and stick it inside of my protection jar. But I'm just gonna stick the bell in there, and now the bell symbolizes warding off negativity. A lot of witches keep witch bells hanging on their front doors. You'll see them on wreaths, you'll see them on door handles, and people wear them around their necks. People do this all the time. This is nothing new. Now, I did just make a video on witch bells and how you can use them, what you can do, spells that come with witch bells, and that is linked on my channel up here and somewhere down in the description. I am going to be putting this witch bell in here with a purpose and with intent of this being a Yule protection jar. Oop. Now, if your jar does not fit a note, like I said, you can just draw on the top of the lid if that's valid for you. And grab one of those scrap pieces of paper, cut it, write something on it, fold it up, and then put it on top of the jar. And then we're gonna melt wax on top of it so it stays. In this protection jar, I am not going to be doing that because it is very, very small. I am just going to be drawing a sigil on it. So this is actually my sigil. I've done this in a video before. So if you wanna learn how to draw sigils personalized to you, feel free to do that. So I'm going to use this sigil and I'm going to draw it on the top of this. Mine's obviously gonna look a little bit different than the one on the big giant tin because it's so tiny. And I'm also not an artist. We are going to go ahead and burn some white candles. Now, white symbolizes serenity, renewal, peace, and that is why we are using white candles. These are also Shabbat candles. You also don't have to use a candle like this. If you don't feel comfortable using a candle like this, you can just use a jarred candle and tilt it over once the flame is already out, and you're able to just get all of that wax. Also, you don't have to use a new candle. I just used one because I really wanted to use these Shabbat candles, but to be very honest with you, I usually use this candle, which is a Hanukkah candle. Honestly, I should probably just use this instead, because this one doesn't seem like it's, yeah, let's just use this one instead, because this one always drips better wax. Faster wax, I should say. Sometimes when you do things like this, it does take patience, and that's something that I still always have to learn because I'm a very impatient person. But in the same breath, if you don't have patience, or let's say you don't have time, you can just use a big candle. Those produce a lot more wax faster. Although I find fun in tilting a candle sideways and just watching it do its magic. So we're just going to continue this until we have an entire white coat on top of this protection jar. So while I'm letting our protection jar cool from the wax, I do want to talk quickly about how you can do this entire spell in ornaments. Now, the best part about this is that it's a really cool gift, and you can also find them at the dollar store, or you might even just have clear ornaments at home already. Just comes right off, and inside of here you can replicate everything that you just put in the jar, but you can make it that much bigger. Now, this is what the Yule protection ornament looks like. I think it came out so cool. Honestly, I feel like it even came out cooler than the protection jar. I did the exact same thing through and through, and the only additional thing that I added was able to use a full pine branch, or a clipping of it as to say, and then I was able to put a little scroll inside with like a personalized note, as well as I added some crystals inside of this ornament because they were able to fit. Oh, and also I was able to put 3 bells inside of here. If you couldn't tell, witchcraft makes me tired because it is something that takes a lot out of you. It takes your own protection and it takes your own energy. It really casts into an object. So I feel freaking exhausted between every witchcraft activity I did today. So please, with that, make sure that you're subscribed. Give me some energy back. I need you guys to help me boost up my momentum, or I might need some coffee, or I might need some, like a little bit of a nap, honestly. Have a wonderful Yule. Have a happy Hanukkah, a lovely and Merry Christmas if I don't see you guys before then. I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.